Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. Russia has invaded the Ukraine. However, major countries, including the United States, are actually reluctant to impose sanctions on Russian energy because that would actually damage their own economies. Welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. This episode is based on this article that you see on your screen from the New York Times, and we'll provide you with a link to this resource in the description section below. Ukraine and the mirage of energy independence. In other words, we are not energy independent yet, even though we try and position ourselves as if we were or as if we might become energy independent. In fact, domestic oil and gas production in the US has indeed boomed in recent years, but our country and its allies remain reluctant to impose sanctions on Russian energy that could actually damage their own economies. The fact is, now Americans are facing rising fuel prices, and this is in large part because of the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, which, by the way, is a top oil and gas producer, and they want to use their energy supplies as a weapon when necessary. According to this article, Americans realized 45 years ago that the United States had an energy dependence problem, and the nation's long pursuit of energy independence did lead to a boom in domestic production and some conservation measures. It may have seemed that the country solved its dependence issues. It didn't. And energy and geopolitics are connected today as much as ever. Americans are paying more than $3.50 a gallon for gas, roughly $1 more than a year ago, and Russian tanks only just have begun to roll. The great challenge stubbornly remains with us as a problem that is managed but never quite solved. As Russian troops fan out across Ukraine, the United States and its allies are reluctant to impose sanctions on Russian energy so as not to hurt their own economies. Alternatively, Russia could turn off the taps to pressure the West. Either way, everyone is hurt. The fact is, folks, President Biden has had to tap into the national petroleum reserves because we are still dependent on oil production from Russia. Now, here's the fact. Tensions with Russia and possible future sanctions against the Kremlin actually threaten petroleum supplies, pushing gas prices to their highest level since 2014, while domestic natural gas prices have doubled over the past year. Here's a quote from David L. Goldwyn, who was a leading State Department energy diplomat in the first Obama administration. There is no true energy independence. With globally priced commodities like oil and gas and now critical minerals, there is no protection from price disruption, even if you have adequate supply. Here's a quote from Dalip Singh, a Deputy National Security Advisor. Our sanctions are not designed to cause any disruption to the current flow of energy from Russia to the world. So, it's a fact that the United States and its allies are reluctant to impose sanctions against Russia's energy sector, even though that is the heart of the Russian economy. I want our viewers and subscribers to know that Russia produces 1 out of every 10 barrels of oil the world consumes and up to 1/3 of Europe's natural gas supplies. The petroleum card gives it strategic leverage well beyond its nuclear capabilities. That essentially is a power that Russia has. And so, folks, I want you to know that this is a very complex issue, and President Putin of Russia has been keen, along with China, to actually acquire strategic minerals, strategic materials found around the world necessary for the production of renewable energy and electric vehicles. So basically, what he's trying to do is plan for the future, and our policymakers, our lawmakers are actually worried because of the tremendous dependence on oil, on gas. In fact, here's a quote from Megan O'Sullivan, who is a former Deputy National Security Advisor in the George W. Bush administration and currently a professor at Harvard. Policymakers are right to be worried that the world may be swapping a dependency on oil and gas for a dependency on critical minerals whose current production and processing are actually significantly more concentrated in fewer countries than either oil or gas. So, folks, what is the bottom line? The bottom line is that the world does need Russia to produce energy. Now, I want you to know that, we are producing a significant amount of gas, a significant amount of oil in Texas, New Mexico, and North Dakota. However, we still need Russia to be able to supply oil, not just to the United States, but to other countries across the world, because this could become a global crisis. Now, I want you to know that in 2014, the United States actually began exporting large amounts of oil for the first time in decades, because we do produce a significant amount of oil. However, 2 years later, the United States started to export liquefied natural gas from terminals that were once designed for import. So we can produce quite a bit of gas, quite a bit of oil on our own, but the instability that is caused by the lack of the Russian supply, which, by the way, the Russians can turn off anytime they want. I don't think they will, because, they make money when they sell oil. But the instability that would be caused if Russia stopped supplying oil could lead to global disruptions. Again, I don't think they'll do that because, they like money as much as anyone. Now, while the United States is now the world's biggest producer of oil and natural gas, energy prices and supply still move up and down based on events that are beyond the control of the American government. In fact, even before the Ukraine crisis, the political instability in Venezuela and Libya actually had an impact on oil production. So, folks, what is the bottom line? The bottom line is that the whole world is interconnected. You cannot say, hey, let's just produce our own oil and natural gas and who cares about Europe? It doesn't work like that. The whole world is interconnected because we don't have an unlimited supply of oil and natural gas, and there are pros and cons to drilling for oil and natural gas. In fact, here's a quote from Daniel F. Becker, who's the director at the Safe Climate Transport Campaign at the Center for Biological Diversity. If you drill and pillage America first to have more fossil fuels domestically, you're still burning them and the carbon ends up in the atmosphere. The more we drill, the more wildfires, the more droughts and severe hurricanes we make worse because global warming is a direct result of burning fossil fuels. And so here's the bottom line, folks. In the end, companies like Tesla, the electrification of our transport system will help. But electric vehicles need batteries. These batteries contain critical minerals like lithium, cobalt, copper, nickel, and rare earth minerals that are actually found in unstable countries. Countries like China, countries like Russia. China actually is a dominant player in the procurement of a majority of these minerals and could easily be a major rival of America in the future. In fact, they are already major rivals, but the future will not be about gas and oil. The future will be about rare earth minerals that are used to power the technology of the future. According to Jason Bordoff, who's the head of Columbia University's Center on Global Energy Policy, he said the world needed to find a cleaner energy solution to deal with climate change, but that does not guarantee a more peaceful world. The old politics of oil and gas, he said, are going to be with us and acute and layered on top of the new politics of clean energy. And I think Russia and China are trying to be the global players, the global dominant players, and they want to outmaneuver us, the United States of America. I believe in the long run they won't be able to, because I believe, as imperfect as our systems are, I believe in American creativity, I believe in American ingenuity, and I believe that we will prevail ultimately in the end. Maybe I say that because I'm a patriot, but I do sincerely believe that because I know that we have what it takes to continue to dominate and hopefully along the way always do the right thing. Please click like, please click subscribe, please enable notifications. Let me know what you thought of the content in the comment section below. I appreciate you. Again, please click like and subscribe. That really helps out the channel. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.